Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have my friend Jess here today. Welcome, Jess.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad we're finally sitting down to do this.
Oh my gosh, I know. I got to meet you, gosh, like a year ago, right? Or last fall. Last
Yeah, it was
fall.
in the fall. Yeah.
Um, and I always believe like nothing's really a coincidence. How I got to meet you was at a growth conference, our friend Keisha, Empower Her. And I'm holding here, for those of you who can't see this, but we got to exchange cards. I'll just share a little bit before we get going. But like I still have this, and this is how I
I
got to
do
meet you.
too.
This is how I
I
got to meet
it's
you.
I keep it on my desk.
Oh my gosh. So, this yellow card I'm holding, it says, share a light filled message to empower her. And the conference was Empower Her. Um, Valencia Key, who I got to feature on my podcast, amazing woman, handed out these cards to share light with another woman at this event. And you and I happened to cross paths and exchange our cards with one another. And so we're sitting here today, getting to connect and share. And you are full of just this light. And your sign behind you says you are magic. You really are. So honored to have you.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting that you brought that card up because I was wondering, I'm like, does Lisa remember how we connected?
Of
We were the
course.
people who exchanged our cards, and I just thought it was so ironic, and I'm gonna get emotional even thinking about it. I just thought it was so ironic that I got your card because of the season that I was in at that time. And it's very different than where we're at right now. But where I was at was very much a closed door to children in my life at all. And I was just like, why did I get Lisa's card? There's no way that's a reason. And then now I'm starting to learn more and more on why I got Lisa's card. But at the
Oh,
time, I just was like, this is so interesting. Like, what are you trying to tell me, God? I don't, this is, haha,
I don't
good
even remember
joke.
what I wrote to the one to a random stranger. I just don't remember what I wrote, but what you wrote to me was you said you are beyond worthy. I see your magic, love, and potential just as you are. I love you so friggin' much. You signed your name and your handle. It was just like, wow. Thank you.
I'll grab yours too. It's literally right here. Just give me a sec. Put in some little instrumental pieces here.
How special we both have him in our offices.
Oh yeah, I keep it because I was like, why would I? I needed that as a reminder. And also I just thought it was like the
Mm.
craziest thing. So I have it here. Keep it on my desk.
Oh my gosh.
And it said, trust your heart, your love. The answer is within. Share your light and know your impact is felt big by others who are meant to receive this. And then it says your name. And then
Mm.
it says your gifts and a heart and your handle.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh
I
my.
thought you wouldn't remember. You
Oh,
know how we
Jess.
always think that stuff, right? Like she's not gonna remember that silly little thing. But
Well, you were on the panel and I was so impressed by you and the message that you're all about. I mean, confidence. You're the host of the Selfish podcast. And you've been doing that since 2021,
yeah,
right? A little
Selfish Confidence
while.
came out in October 2021, so 2.5 years now.
Yeah, that's so incredible. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And so, like, really not playing small, shining your light. Like, you've been open about you weren't always like this super confident person and struggles with some different things. I've heard you talk about different anxiety, different things like that. But like, share a little bit about where you're at. I mean, what season you were in, even maybe when we met, and kind of like what you're doing now, where you're at.
Yeah, so I'm Jess, and I'm from Nova Scotia, Canada. So a little farther away from where Lisa is. If you listen locally to where Lisa is, I'm a little more north and east. But I started a podcast called Selfish Confidence when I lost my confidence. I
Mm.
was living abroad with my husband in Barbados, so we lived there for just a couple years, and it happened to align perfectly with the pandemic, which just allowed for me to have no friends in a new country, totally isolated, no car, no access to my money. Essentially, my only title was Glenn's wife, which like
Oh,
Glenn is great. I love him. He's wonderful. I love being Glenn's wife. But I
yeah.
never ever in my life wanted to be only someone's wife. I
Mm.
had so much more that I wanted to give the world, but
Mm.
it started to tear away at me more and more as I
Mm.
started getting recognized only as Glenn's wife for a really long time. And at
Wow.
that point, I was building a social media brand online. I was doing fitness online, and nobody knew that I was struggling as bad as I was. That As soon as the cameras went down at night, I was crying. I was
Mm.
alone all the time because my husband worked 12 plus hour shifts every single day. And so my only friends were my cats. And then my only friend became my 60-year-old neighbor who is awesome. Uh, but that was my only friend and her 5 dogs. So
He's the one
it,
who made you the cake, right? Make you
yes,
made
yes,
you a
she
cake.
did. She made me a cake and
Oh.
what's so cool is too she's the reason I have a dog. So if it wasn't for her,
Oh.
I wouldn't have rescued my dog Polly. So like good things come
Mm.
from dark seasons for sure, but it was a
Totally.
very dark season and when I came back home, I was like, okay, I'm home. I'm gonna have my car back, I'm gonna
Mm.
have my friends back, I'm gonna have my life back. Everything's gonna be so freaking great. I'm gonna be me again. Don't worry, I'm making a comeback. And I came home and nothing had changed. And I
Mm.
learned that it wasn't Barbados that was the issue. It was a lack of confidence in myself, a lack of figuring out who I was, and being in a transitional season of coming out of that business that I was in and it not feeling aligned anymore. And so just everything felt wrong. And so I decided to start this project called the Year of Confidence. And with that, every day I had different tasks for a whole year. And I gave
You just
myself,
started this? You started
yeah,
this, the
it's
year
like
of confidence.
just started it. I made it up.
Wow.
I was
I
like,
love
whatever,
it.
it's
I love it.
my own project. And aligned with that, I decided to start a podcast and do
Mm.
it publicly. So tell the world that I was struggling and let's just like bring everybody along while I start to figure this out.
Mm.
And what's interesting is through that process, I started to find myself a little bit more. People were
Mm.
starting to be more attracted to me. They were like, "What are you doing? Tell me more." But what I learned at the end of that year was that a year isn't really a whole lot of time, and that there was so much more that I wanted to do and wanted to do for myself in particular. So I just started to keep going, keep working on my confidence, keep doing the podcast, keep sharing things. I started hosting retreats. I started connecting with more women. I started building more programs for them, and it really blossomed into this beautiful business that helps tons of women now have more confidence to really just step into their power. And I'm not going to sit here in front of you and be like, I'm so confident. I got it all figured out. Like
Yeah.
I got this business and I am the queen of confidence. No, I'm still figuring it
Mm.
out every single day. And as you mentioned, my anxiety, I have a lot of anxiety and we're still figuring it out step by step every single day.
Oh, I love it. You're so open. You're so real and vulnerable. Like we need more people like you. It's so important.
I think I
Oh.
forget though that not a lot of people are this open about their
Yeah.
struggles because I do surround myself with a lot of women who do. And then when I go into a room where they're not, I'm like, "Oh, I'm a weirdo." Huh. I
Oh,
like it, but like in a good way, right? Because
yeah.
it's not the norm, and
It's
I
good.
don't always
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah. It's good to be different. It's good to, I mean, you're using your voice and self-ish podcast. What does that mean to you? Self-ish
So I
pod.
started it with that self-ish, the ish being in brackets because I was ish like kind of self-confident, figuring it out as I go. But it's become more and more around that selfish aspect of figuring out who you are and being selfish about who you are. So it
Mm.
really started in this like ish, like kind of figuring it out, kind of figuring out my confidence. And now it is really stepping into that power and being more selfish in things. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a transitional journey for sure.
I think what's beautiful is like it's never fully an ending thing. We're always evolving and growing. And like, it's like never like you finally are like, I've arrived and I've figured it all out. It's like you're constantly, figuring more about who you are and uncovering more things about yourself and going deeper. It's like that's life, right?
Yeah,
It's
as we're ever evolving, right? Like
going
if I was gonna
deeper.
stay the same, like that's boring.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate you just being so real about like, you haven't always been this way and we still deal with challenges. So the season of life that you're in now, where would you say like where was like your focus and your confidence? Is it like really making the podcast grow? Are you working on supporting other women kind of in this space to level up in their confidence? Like kind of where are you at in
Yes.
life right now?
So the season I'm in right now, I just got home from hosting my very first international retreat in Barbados, my first
Amazing.
week-long retreat, and it
Yeah.
was the first time going back there since we lived there. And
Mm.
again, I blamed a lot of my hurt and my pain on the location being Barbados. And it wasn't the case. Going back there was such a beautiful and healing
Mm.
experience. And also bringing 8 women with me was so freaking cool. So it
Awesome.
really helped me to see where I want these next seasons to go, focus deeply on women's confidence and helping women because I really do think Like if we started to believe in ourselves, if we started to see our magic, like we are going to take over the world. Like
Mm.
watch out world, like the women have power here.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just really cool to step into that. And I'm doing that also with my big first live in-person event with 200 women here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm scared out of my mind. Because it's
Yeah.
one of those things like planning a sleepover when you're like 8 years old and you're like, are people gonna come?
Is that
Well,
in October? Is that in the
yeah,
fall?
October 5th and
Okay.
6th here in
Okay.
Halifax. And so that's really what I'm focusing on now is building that out and bringing just like the best event to this city because we don't really have anything like this for typical normal women. Like
Mm.
it's there's things for entrepreneurs and there's things for moms and there's things for this is an event for all women. Like whoever you are, whatever life path you're on, wherever you are in your life, like I want you to feel welcome to come, whether you have a business or not, whether you have kids or not. And that being something that's like really important to me too. So that's like the season
Mm.
we're in now is focusing on this event.
I love that. I love that you're helping women really tap into just a reminder of remembering of that magic within. And that's what I strive to do too with the women in the fertility space. And I know you don't know this journey personally, going through IVF or fertility treatment, that kind of thing, but there are so many women who are challenged in, say, their confidence is one area, where it's tested again and again. And there's many times where you'll go through multiple cycles and rounds, and there's just a huge roller coaster. There's disappointments, there's heartbreak. It really can shake your confidence in a major way. And I'm just curious, like, what things have or what advice would you give to women or things that are coming to mind when as women are struggling and confidence is such this is your area of focus. It's like any words of wisdom you could share with women who are on this path and just like they're being tested again and again and again.
Yeah. One, if that's you listening to this right now, I send you a really, really, really big hug. Send me
Mm,
a message and I will try my best to fill you with love and light and send all the power
mm,
your way because that is a really difficult season to be in. And like Lisa said, like I don't know this season for you personally. It's not something I've ever been through. But if you're struggling with your confidence in this season that you're at right now, I just want you to focus on who you are in this moment. Confidence comes from you knowing yourself.
mm,
And in these
mm,
ever-changing seasons, and especially in these dark seasons, we lose that touch in who we are. So
mm,
just start to ask yourself really simple questions, even something as simple like, what do I want to wear today? And then putting that outfit on.
mm,
Or what do I want to do with this time I have this morning? Is it grab a coffee with a girlfriend? Is it hermit at home in your pajamas and rot on the couch? Like just start to do the things that you actually want to do by asking yourself these really simple questions. And I think that's what we lose in these seasons is we think back to a previous version of ourselves and we also think of the future version of ourselves
yeah.
we forget the version that we are right now. And it's
Mm,
so important that we get to know that version because they're just as worthy. They're just as
yeah.
wonderful. They're just in this like awkward, dark season in the middle that feels like we're never going to get out of. So we just always are comparing to these other versions or other people. So just get to know
That's big.
yourself really simply with questions. Like, what do I need today? Okay, it's a McFlurry. Awesome. I'm gonna go get it. Like whatever that is, like lean
Yeah.
into it and start to tell your body that it can trust you when it tells you what it needs.
Oh, that's perfect advice. I'm just hearing you speak and I'm like, yes, it is knowing yourself, having that self-awareness. Because oftentimes, like on this path, and I've lived it too, you can feel really disconnected to yourself and you forget, like, who am I? Who was I before all these challenges? What are the things that I love to do? What used to light me up? And what have I forgotten to include in my life now? There's a lot of the ideas around kind of stop living. And this is why I'm so passionate about like helping women to really step in to holding on to themselves through this path.
Mhm.
Um, Hold on, baby. It's what I wrote about. And I feel like something I've heard you talk about too. It's like through challenges in life, through things that we're confronted with, like there are times where we feel like we do lose ourselves. Can you share about some of those times where you felt like I really felt like, was it during COVID where you kind of like, I'm losing myself and I lost
Oh,
my job or I moved to a new country and all the things, right? Like,
I did all of those things. I
yeah, I've
lost my
heard you
job
talk about
and
that.
moved to a new
Yeah,
country.
I've heard that. I heard you say that. And would you say those
Yeah.
kind of stand out as times where you're like, wow, like, who am I? Like, I'm kind of feeling lost here.
That one definitely, when I lost my job in the pandemic, because I was working in digital marketing for a hotel management company.
Mm,
So we ran about like 9 different websites and social media accounts and all of the things. And well, nobody was traveling
I was
in
gonna
COVID.
say,
So obviously I was going to lose my job, which is
wow.
totally, it,
Yeah.
it was interesting because I was already put my notice in that I was starting my own digital marketing business.
Mm,
And so I was like, great. I guess this works out with perfect timing. But I still remember when I got that call, and I had never been fired before. And I know I wasn't fired, but it was still like that rock of like, oh my gosh, I don't have a job. Like, how crazy is that? And my husband looked at me. He's like, what is wrong? Like, this is what you wanted. And I was
mm,
like, okay, yeah, you're right, but not like this. I didn't think this wasn't part of my plan. So that one definitely shook me to the core more than I realized. I also did love, though, in the pandemic, I'm an introvert. So
yeah.
being home with my husband
Oh
was
yeah.
great
Yeah.
until we did have to, like, when flights opened back up and we moved to Barbados semi-permanently. It was really, really great. But then
Yeah.
once we moved there and I spent a lot more time alone, again, as an introvert in the beginning, super fun. But there were a lot of things that kind of like dug it in even more. So our first apartment got termites, and so we had to have like termites, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Oh,
Extermination.
extermination. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple times in our apartment, and they would
Oh,
not die. They were like really resilient termites. And I was like, cool, we got to move. So we went through the process of finding a new apartment when we were living down there. And through that, obviously again, like COVID happened pretty deep down there. In the beginning, it
mm,
wasn't that serious because no one was traveling. And then it got really serious and the rules were really strict, which was not super fun. And then after that, and a volcano came. So a neighboring island volcano erupted and the ash covered Barbados. I didn't go outside for 2 weeks.
oh wow.
You weren't allowed to use your ACs or your dryers because it just wasn't safe to breathe it in. I'd never experienced anything like this before in my life. And it's just like thing after thing after thing. Also, first hurricane they'd had in a really long time too. All the things. And with every single one of these, it just kept getting darker. Like my
So
eyes just started to get glazed over. It was just darker and darker and darker. And sometimes you're so far in the darkness, you cannot see.
mm,
You're so far in the darkness that you don't even know that there could even be light. And for
yeah.
me, that light at the end of the tunnel was like, I'm going to be home in Canada soon. It's going to be okay. But then you come home and it just isn't what it was, right? It isn't what you thought it was.
Mm. Yeah, I heard you say like good things come from dark seasons. So
They
how
do.
did you get out of this dark place? What were the things that were helping you to see the light?
So for me, it was those daily actions in that year of confidence. So I started doing a little bit more
Okay.
movement, finding the movement that
Mm,
brings me joy. Because again, I was coming out of an online fitness business that just didn't feel aligned anymore. And I felt like it was targeting too much towards body and how your body would
mm,
look versus confidence, feeling good in your skin. And so I started to find movements and challenge that belief on what movement looked like for me. I also started doing a lot more time in meditation and in prayer, spending time with myself, really just going inward and figuring out who that version of me was. And then also saying yes to things that I really was really scary. One, like starting a podcast, super scary, you know. Putting your
mm-hmm.
voice out there is freaking scary.
Yeah, it
There was
is.
also certain like networking events. Again, as an introvert, I
Mm,
was really scared to do, especially post pandemic and even kind of in the pandemic. You're just going and starting to be out with people again. And it was kind of
mm,
scary. So trying to say yes to some of these things that I normally say no to, getting up on stages and speaking, it was just like a whole
yeah.
lot of like little incremental things of building my confidence one after one after one. We think it's one big thing. We think it's like, okay, boom, I'm
Mm,
confident again. It was
right.
like small actions and like so
Incremental.
small that I couldn't say no. It had to be like so small that on a day that you don't want to get out of bed because the darkness is taking over, that you could still do something. Maybe it's 1 minute meditation or 1 minute of like
Mm,
bed yoga. You can find a way. Like maybe it's a little hanky panky with your husband and then not getting out of bed for the rest of the day. You do what you got to do, okay? And it's just those little things going forward that are going to build into big things over time.
mm. I love you, Jess. Right. Just like keeping it simple. Like it's just like these little tiny micro decisions that we get to make on a day. We get to. I like the get to instead of, we have to, we need to. Like I love how you share about movement, moving our body because it feels good. Maybe not because we have to, right?
That was a big one for me too, because again, it was my body was my business. I
Mm-hmm.
hated that. That became so toxic and disgusting for me. But my body was my business. And so I had to do the things, or it was certain moves that would make your abs pop more, or whatever. And it didn't feel right. So finding love for movement that had nothing to do with my body was like a huge, huge, huge difference in my confidence.
This reminds me about, getting comfortable with the unknown. Because, right, like you and I starting a podcast, doing things like this, you don't know until you do it, until you put it out there. And so
Not at all.
navigating the unknown, this is a big area that I see a lot of women struggling with through IVF. And how is this all going to work out? Will I become a mom? We don't know. We don't know the how, right? But there are often a lot of fears that come up on this path. And I'm just curious, like what thoughts arise for you as you hear this with just fear of the unknown, and what supported you as you continue to embrace the unknown and make strides, like tackling fear. Like what has supported you? Kind of just any thoughts on that?
Oh, girl, I'm so scared all the time.
Yeah.
So scared again, anxiety, but also just when you do big
Yeah.
things, big fears come. Like it's just part of
Mhm.
it. And it's interesting that you asked this question because this morning I was reading the new Michelle Obama book and she talked
Oh.
about fears. And I've been leaning into lately a season of the unknown and a season of like big fears, like not really knowing what's coming in this next chapter of my life. And I've been like, I just am so freaking scared, like just so scared of what this next season will look like. And then I was reading this book this morning, and she talks about her fears. She talks about coming from really fearful grandparents who came from dark seasons and, so scared that they hardly ever really left the house. And so their
Mm.
parents, of course, held on to some of those fears, generational traumas, but also started to try to do things a little bit differently. And I actually pulled the book up because I knew you were going to talk about fears here. And what I thought was really cool was there was a moment when she was really, really young and her mom started getting her to walk to school alone. And as she did that, she was like, I'm freaking scared. But then she learned that her mom was also really scared in this season, but just trusted her, trusted that she could do it.
Mm.
And what she wrote here was her lesson was like, go forth with a spoonful of fear and return with a wagon full of confidence, but also
Mm.
competence. And I
Mm.
just think it's so interesting because when we're moving forward in these seasons that are dark and really fearful, and right now, the unknown, like I'm in a tornado of the unknown, is what it feels like.
Mm.
I know competence and confidence is on the other side. We've done it before, right? Starting a podcast is
Mm.
so scary, but there is now competence. You could show up, put your mic on, you're ready to go. Like we
Yeah.
know what we're doing here now. We didn't when we first started. It's the
Right.
same thing in different areas of your life and whatever you're going through. It could be that IVF journey. It could be becoming a mom. It could be, starting a business, whatever that is. Like competence is on the other side. Your confidence is on
Mm.
the other side. We just have to like get through that mucky fear. And if you're like, how to do that? Honestly, it's like Dory in Finding Nemo, like just keep swimming. Like it's
I
literally
have that
just
on my
keep swimming.
bracelet.
Do you
I
really? Oh my
have a
gosh,
bunch
that's
of
so,
my friends send it to me. I wear these mantra bands pretty
oh my
much
gosh, I
every
love that.
day. I have enjoy the little things. Um, have always in my heart, expect miracles. And my friend sent me just keep swimming. So
Oh
yes.
my gosh, that's so cool. Well, it's exactly that, right? Like just
Yeah.
keep
It,
going.
right. Oh my gosh. This is so good. Speaking of books, have you heard of Fear is My Homeboy? I
Yeah,
got
I
to
haven't read it, but I've heard of
Judy
it.
Holler. Yeah, I had her on my podcast. She was so great. And we talk about fear, like embracing fear, welcoming fear, making space for it, because it like really reminds us like we're fully living, right?
Yeah, you saw her speak too, didn't you?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cool.
She's incredible. Judy Holler, shout out to her. But yeah, I think not playing small in our lives, really taking an empowered approach, like what you were just talking about, like getting through to the other side. You're going to look back and like, wow, like look what I overcame, look what I'm overcoming. Like we are constantly like kind of in the becoming, right? We want to tackle this fertility path. It's like we do one step in front of the other. We don't know what's on the other side, but just having the courage to not play small, right? Like anybody that's embarking on this path, I have just the biggest heart for, because it's like it really tests you and transforms you in so many ways. And it's learning how to really ride this wave of fertility. And so ideas around not playing small in your life. Like, what would you tell a woman who, is feeling like in this really dark place? And you and I both agree on keeping that light alive, really keep shining brighter. What would you say to a woman? I mean, just even to keep a little spark of that light alive.
Oh, I feel, even as you talk about it, I feel it so deeply. I get very emotional and I feel things deeply.
Me
And
too.
so that means that somebody is listening to this podcast right now who is going through that, who is
Mm,
feeling that. And if that's you and you are feeling that light dimming a bit more, whether you're doing that to yourself or the season that you're in is making that light dim a bit more, or there's someone in your life who's making that light dim, whatever reason it is, I would just stand true in who you are. Like, I truly do believe you were meant to be here. You were put on this path for a reason. And we don't know what that reason is. But again, beautiful things can come out of that darkness. And so hold on to it. Like, what's that one thing that keeps that spark alive? We were
mm,
just at the retreat, and one of the activities that I really wanted the women to do there was um is we all had sparklers
yeah.
and I lit one and then I made my sparkler light the one beside me and
Mm,
then they did the same thing. We do it all in a big circle. And
love
what's really
that.
beautiful in that is as mine starts to dim and goes out, there are still beautiful sparklers around me. There is still light happening. There's still at least one person who's still burning. And
Mm,
if you don't have that light, find that person and hold on to them as tight as you can. Because if we don't have those people around us, that light's going to go out and there's nothing else shining around us. And oh, I feel that deeply. It can be really, really dark to do this alone. So
yeah.
find those people. Find Lisa's community of other women who are going through this.
Mm,
Lean on there. Send me a message that I can connect with you and help you to keep your spark alive too. But even when it's like dark, know that there's one person close to you, but keep them freaking close because as soon as their light goes out, maybe yours is sparked back up and you can help them. And that's a really powerful thing. Why community and leaning into the people who you see the light in is so important.
mm. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And it is, it's like the more we can be reminded we're not alone on this path. We have a sisterhood, a community of people who many have walked this path and will continue to walk this path. And it's like we're kind of all guiding each other.
Yeah.
I wish I'd had more support as I was going through this. And that's kind of why I started this, to help others really keep that light alive and to navigate with a greater sense of like feeling whole and full. And so we need more. We need more support in this area. It's this
Mhm.
kind of mental, emotional ride that you have no idea when you jump on this roller coaster, like what you're in for. And it's life changing.
Yeah. And if you're like me, you probably like to isolate and hide like I did in Barbados so nobody knows what you're going through. But like that's the worst thing you can do. Like
Mm,
just one, even if you only trust one person, like
yeah.
trust Lisa, like send her a
Mm.
message, trust someone, like one person, because doing it alone is not the answer.
Oh, thank you, Jess. That's means so much. Um, Thinking about just sisterhood, connection, personal growth, like, is this something that's you're always seeking out, that you're cultivating a community around you? I know, we met at a personal growth conference. um, what kinds of things are you doing to fill up your cup these days?
Oh, that's a good question.
Mhm.
So, well, I feel really blessed because the last 2 weeks I had just spent in Barbados. So, a week with my husband. It was just the two of us trying to visit family and friends that were down there. And then also, um, then I brought 8 women with me.
Yeah,
And having that filled my cup up so much. It
I
filled my
love
cup up with confidence too, because I didn't think I could do it. And I did. And it was awesome. And also, just like sunshine is so great. But now that I'm home, some of the things I do to fill my cup up is I have a zero gravity chair on my back deck. I like to sit in that and read and meditate. I like to get out in nature. Nature is like the number one thing for me. So walking on trails, getting out for walks with my dog.
it. Mm.
Just like I have this rock in my backyard and I like to go sit on it. There's like just little things like
Yes,
that.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like really, really simple ways that fill up my cup. I like to have a regular date night with my partner. So tonight we're going to the movies. And
Mm,
sometimes it means like date nights at home on the couch eating Chinese food, but other times it means
okay.
going out and doing something. It's like whatever I need that week. I try to use that as a way to light me up. And then I have a community I created called the Selfish Sisterhood. And I use that as a tool not only to light myself up, but to light up other women because we don't always have spaces. And again, like you said, you created this because you wished you had it when you were going
Yeah.
through it. I
Yeah.
created the Selfish Sisterhood because I wished I had it when I was living in Barbados. Like I wish someone was doing events and putting these things together for me. So, hey, sometimes you have to go through it to create it, and we were the ones to create it. So it's just finding these things that feel really good. And in whatever season, because again, what's going to fill me up today might not fill me up tomorrow. So just trusting that every day and asking that question, like, what do I need now?
Hmm.
And filling that cup up because we need your cup full. Like we
Oh
need
my
it
gosh.
full because
Because
we,
yeah,
yeah.
I heard Lisa Nichols. Do you remember who she is? She's from The Secret. I heard her speak once and she
Oh,
talks about
yeah.
like you fill your cup up so it's overflowing, right? And it's overflowing. Imagine it being on a saucer and we're serving like from the overflow. Like, isn't that a
Oh,
great way
yeah.
of looking at life? It's just like, yes, fill up your cup, but like let it overflow and serve from that space where you just have
Mm,
so much to give and you can give and give, right? We can't serve we all heard this, can't give from an empty cup or half filled cup,
hmm
right? But like you're right. And it's like kind of that selfish, I like that mentality. I mean, some people look at self-care and think, oh, that's selfish. You're taking care. And no, it's essential to take care of ourselves, to fuel ourselves, to fill our cup. Would you agree
Yeah.
on that? I mean,
100%. Like I truly believe God did not put you on this planet to be miserable. Like what kind of higher power would have wanted that for us? Like here is a planet of people who are sad and lonely and miserable and in dark seasons. Like yeah, we're here to learn some lessons, but like happiness is one of those lessons. Like feeling good is a lesson. Like I don't
yes.
understand why anyone would think that. So it's like we're all supposed to be miserable and like give all of our energy away. Like, nah, I
Yeah.
don't think so. I don't subscribe to that. Thank you. I'm gonna go hang out in nature instead.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Yes, I'm having these light bulbs go off too because it's like, oh my gosh, this fertility path, you know, there's times people need assistive technology for reproduction, for different reasons. And some are confronted with unexplained infertility, and there's not reasons like why we understand why we need to go through this. And it's just like, okay, we're not meant to suffer and be in this miserable, low place. Like,
Mm,
what can we control? What can we pull in? And that is about the feeling good, bringing in more pleasure. Yeah, I'm just like not in the mindset of like, let's succumb to these circumstances and just live in the suffering.
yeah. Yeah.
I feel like you're right. I mean, we're meant to enjoy life, and a fertility challenge is not often enjoyable. It's not looked at as an enjoyable, nobody wants to really experience it, but it's taking that power back in your hands and being like, I'm redefining my life. I'm not letting fertility challenges like take over my life and rob me of my joy and make me stop living and doing the things that light me up. So, I mean, I think that can be applied to just so many different challenges in life. Like, what are we giving our power over to? And
Mhm.
what can we like take back to find some joy on this path, to celebrate?
Yeah. I think too, it's like we have so much life left to live. Like
Hmm.
oftentimes we're in this darkness and we're just like, I don't want to keep going, or like I can't even picture where the future's going to be. Like I might as well just be miserable for the rest of my life. It's easier. But like, let's say you're 40, like you're only at half your life. Even if you're 50, like you're only could be
Yeah.
half your life. Like you have 50 more years to go. Like, do you really want to feel like this for the next 50 years? Like you
Mm-hmm.
could do something. You could change something, even if it's really, really,
Mm-hmm.
really small. Like I hear you, if you're in that darkness, it's hard to see that there could be something, but just like one little thing,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
don't have to be this miserable until the day you die.
You're right. Is there a mindset that you carry with you in your day-to-day life? Like kind of a mantra or mine was, I have a saying in my room, it's always expect something wonderful to happen. And that was the frame of mind that I was living through IVF, just expecting
Mhm.
good things to happen. And I see you have the you are magic behind you. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But is there a word or a phrase that you kind of like play on repeat that you're like, this is the way of living for me?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so back in the day, I used to keep on my wall, leap and the net will appear. Like just like take the freaking jump, something's gonna happen. Don't worry, you're taken care of. But now I feel like I have these goggles of like magical fairy dust on all the time.
I
And
love it.
I don't know, I think it's just a gift that I have to
Yeah.
always see the reframe and always see the positive. And I know that that can come off for some people as toxic positivity, but it's not. It's just who I am. Like I just have these like glitter
Yeah.
goggles on, okay? And I don't know how to take them off. And I can just always see the magic in everything. So
I'm
even
so with
today,
you. I'm so
I
with
know
you.
I'm like, I was looking in the woods today, but I was like, what's that red thing? I'm pretty sure it was a woodpecker, but like I just spent the day like, well, it wasn't that long. It was probably like 10 minutes, but still like looking in the woods, trying to see like what was in the woods. I live like in the woods. It was like
Yeah.
squirrels dancing around. It's like, you know what? Who takes the time to stop and watch the squirrels dance? I do.
I do too. And I think it's a way of it's living in that awe and
Yeah.
wonder, right?
And
And
like
it's achieving.
curiosity and fun and
Yes.
yeah, like to
You've read,
just
have you read Big Magic?
oh, it's my
Such a
favorite book ever
such a good
written.
book.
The
Liz Gilbert.
best. Shout
You
out
and
to
I
Liz
have we
Gilbert
need to
is like
compare books.
so magical. And yeah, I just like to live with those like glitter goggles on.
That is so good. Oh my gosh. So for those listening, and someone's like, okay, I want to put on some glitter goggles. I'm I just don't feel ready. I don't even know. Like, do you do it before you're ready? Like, what kind of thoughts do you have for someone that, like, I want to develop this kind of mindset? I want to, yes, be positive. And then people will say, oh, but I got to be realistic. Like, I don't know. What are thoughts that come through with all this?
I'm not very realistic, is the first thing that I will say. I am a visionary and I just, reality doesn't always sink in.
Mm,
I would first just like ask for guidance and just be like, hey, I want to see something good today.
mhm.
Hey, show me something good today. And then keep your eyes open to see like one good thing. Maybe it's finding a nickel on the ground and you're like, sweet, I found a nickel. Um, if our eyes are always closed in the darkness, you're never gonna see that. So just say, I just want to see one good thing today. Maybe it's that cardinal, maybe it's that grasshopper that you talked about to me earlier. Like maybe
Yeah.
it's seeing the look in your kids' eyes when they just like look up to you with love, or even a child in general, a
Mm,
stranger on the street. Maybe
mm,
it's someone wearing your favorite color and you're like, huh, nice color. Or it could be like any little thing. I think
mm.
sometimes it's like, well, we just can't always see them, but they're
Yeah.
there. Like goodness is there. And so maybe it's like even in the coffee lineup, but if you can't see it, be it. So buy the coffee for the car behind you, like sprinkle that fairy dust somewhere else,
Mm.
hug someone who you maybe haven't hugged in a really long time, call that best friend that you haven't, like be it, and then maybe you're gonna start to see it more and more and more. I'm that like weirdo that'll like hug strangers, be like, hey, you look like someone who might need a hug. Like those things are going to
Yeah.
come the more we're open to it. But like it doesn't have to be big, just like start with like little things. Even like a fresh flower. Like right now the dandelions are out, and I know some people are like, ew, dandelions. I'm like, oh my gosh,
To
what beautiful
blow.
color. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
just like even seeing the dandelions, whatever it is, like
Mhm.
just small things are big and
So
magical.
beautiful, Jess. I'm just thinking, yeah, because it's right. You're asking, you're saying, show me like a directive for universe, God, source. Like we get to co-create on this path. I'm a big
Yeah.
believer. We're not doing this alone. And so it's like asking and show me something good today. I love that
Mhm.
so much.
And also I'll just add like real quick, like
Yeah.
someone's gonna hate me for saying this, but I'm saying it out of love, okay? Put your phone down and put your eyes up. Like put your phone down and
Mhm.
look around you, because I bet if you were to take it off of social media for a minute and go look in the woods or go look anywhere, you're gonna see something. Because that's the thing I noticed lately too, is I'm missing things because my phone is in my hand. Or, while we're driving to go somewhere, like I'm on my phone. But like if I were just to put like my phone down and like look while we're driving places, I'm not the one driving. Okay. I'm just saying, just so you know, it'll be my husband. But you can see
Yeah.
things pop
Yeah.
up. Like even if it's just like a cute dog on the street, like you're missing these things if we're always having our head in our phone. So I say it out of love. Okay. I say it out of love.
God, I'm so glad you're talking about that. Yeah. Keep your eyes open.
You're missing things for
You don't want to
sure.
miss life. You don't
Yeah.
wanna miss- Oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever. This conversation is so magical. I love it.
I love you so much. That's why I can't
Oh,
wait for you to come on my podcast and just keep the
I'm
conversation going.
excited. Yay. Oh my gosh. We'll share with everybody how they can connect with you, and I'll include more in the show notes. But how can
Yeah,
people
so you can
catch you?
find me on Instagram at jess.clerk. You can also check out my website, jessclerke.com. And yeah, send me a message, connect with me. I'm happy to sprinkle some fairy dust into your eyes if that's what you want.
I love you, girl.
I love you so much.
Thank you, Jess. Bye.
Bye.